Something I think is really important to talk about with digital nomading is that you don't have to just go and start something huge right away when you've never done this before. You don't have to jump on a plane tomorrow and go and make this thing work. It's more of a working up to it process. When I meet people that say, "You're so brave," or "I don't think I could ever do that," and reflecting back, it's been a journey, right? Everything in life is a journey, and I wasn't always this way. I started out with, when I look back on my pictures, loads of smaller trips, loads of things that I did to build my confidence without even knowing that I was building my confidence. It was just me trying new things and getting out of my comfort zone and doing it over and over and over and over again. When I lived in the States, I always had a car. And so I would go on road trips by myself, just little short ones, like a little day trip, drive 2 hours away and see something and then come back. Or pick a town like, oh, I've always driven past this road sign that says this city name or whatever. I'm going to go to that city and see what they got there. Sometimes I wouldn't even get out. Sometimes you'd drive through, like, oh, this little podunk town in Ohio. All right, cool. I've been here, I've seen it. But yeah, little things like that. Getting used to going out on my own, going to a coffee shop with a book and sitting and reading alone, going to dinner by myself. These are all things that you can do to practice your independence to kind of, work that muscle before you actually get on a plane and go somewhere and travel. It always starts with, you know, baby steps. I also, back in the day, would just take trips inside the US. And I highly, highly, highly recommend doing that because it's a similar experience, but you get to, you speak the language, you know how things work. Um, Safe cities, be careful out there. But when I lived in Fort Lauderdale, I remember going to Houston for a weekend and this was when my mindset was already in the mode of I'm going to move abroad. I'm going to live abroad. I'm going to travel the world. And I remember getting, oh, it's probably like Spirit Airlines, like, or Frontier. I don't know if they still exist, but they did back then. And I had a flight deal come through or something for like $65 round trip from Fort Lauderdale to Houston. And I just was like, I'm gonna go to Houston for the weekend. Sold, I can stuff all my stuff in a backpack, take it as a carry-on. Spirit, you gotta be careful with the backpacks, but you stuff it all in there and go for a weekend. That was an amazing trip. One of the most fun trips. And it was just because I wanted to branch out, see somewhere new. And it was so funny because I remember at the time that was my last office job that I ever worked at. And I remember a coworker saying, "What are you doing this weekend?" And I was like, "I'm going to Houston." And he said, "Oh, you got family in Houston?" I was like, "Nope." He's like, "Friends?" And I'm like, "Nope." And he's like, "Is there an event? Like, why are you going to Houston?" I was like, "'Cause Spirit Airlines had a $65 deal round trip, and I'm gonna go see Houston. I've never been." And I remember the bafflement, right, in his face of like, "Why would you do that?" But it was to me, it was like, I will easily, if I stay in Florida, if I stay in Fort Lauderdale, go out over the weekend with friends, I will spend more than $65 on a bar tab for sure. But instead, I could be at another city, exploring there, running up a bar tab there, getting out, meeting new people. And I did. I mean, I'd have to look back on my pictures because for someone who travels as much as I do, my memory is toast. I have to like if I see the picture, I can tell you all about it. If I don't see the picture, it's kind of lost to time. But that weekend, I remember staying in a hostel, which was really cool. It was like a house in a residential neighborhood. It's kind of weird. And everything was just kind of very serendipitous. I went to, like, the moment I arrived, I remember walking in and there were like 20 people in the living room and it was like, ah. But they were like, "Hi, new person. We are leaving on our bar crawl in like 5 minutes. Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Yes." Threw my stuff in a locker, joined this big group of people, and we went out and we went to several, like 3 or 4 different bars around. And it was funny. I still have a picture. Don't know any of those people, but I still have a picture of us all like on a night out. Um, and then I remember going to Rice University and just getting one of those city bike rental kind of things, riding around Rice University for a while. I think it's Rice that's in Houston. Um, I went to a soccer game, maybe something else. I don't know. I did some sporting stuff. Like it was just a real. It was some breweries. Like if that's my never fail. If I don't know what to do in a city, I will find the breweries and just like string them together. Um, but yeah, it was a fun weekend, and it was just something that built up my confidence for longer trips. Now I do that in countries where I don't know the language. I'll just be like, "Boop, let's just go for the weekend. I'll just pop over and see what happens." But I never would have been like that without getting out of my comfort zone. I could have stayed in Ohio my whole life and just never tried to even visit other cities in Ohio, never tried to go and do other things. But there was something in me that always wanted to do that. And so it's about confronting, I think, a lot of times the things that scare us, the things that make us uncomfortable, and doing them to the point where we get used to them. I know for a lot of people, it's scary to go out to dinner by yourself. And I remember a friend of mine saying that years ago. He was like, I've never in my life been to dinner by myself. And then the reverse is me. I couldn't imagine it. I was like, if I never went to dinner by myself, I would never go to dinner. Because to me, dinner alone in Paris is phenomenal, and change out Paris for anywhere else around the world. But an amazing experience. And I would hate to be at my home or hotel or whatever, not experiencing that just because there was no one else to go with. But it does have to be worked up to. To me, it's my favorite things. If I'm alone on my birthday, woof, we're going out. And I treat myself to a nice dinner. But it's just the pleasure of being in one's own company is something that I've come to love over the years. Um, but again, I didn't get here overnight. So if you're thinking about it, like I challenge you to make a list of things that you might find scary or that you don't understand how other people could do them. Some of the things I've mentioned in here. And then try them. Try them in baby step versions. It doesn't have to be, a weekend away internationally. It could be a weekend in a different city. And challenge yourself to, put together your own itinerary for sightseeing, what you want to see and do. Go to museums, go to a coffee shop, go to a brewery, if you're like me, a winery, whatever. But just put together little day trips for yourself. And those can be helpful steps to work your way up to eventually doing something like this and living abroad. And literally, I've thought about this once. I'm like, why is it more comfortable for me to grab my passport and get on a plane and go to a country where I don't speak the language than it is to go to a friend's like social gathering birthday party? Like I stress out more about, oh, that's gonna be good, than I do with like, okay, cool, sure, I'll just hop on a plane and go to Japan. I'll figure it out. So it's a muscle. Confidence is a muscle. It's really about just building that up, and building it up in the way that works for you, not anyone else. You don't have to let anyone, rush you. Everything I've said in this video is a suggestion. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. I think there's nothing more valuable than listening to yourself and your gut instincts and your intuition. So that being said, I hope you do challenge yourself a little bit. Drop me a comment. Let me know if you have any questions, or just tell me what you're up to in terms of how you are stepping outside of your comfort zone.